Welcome to Heartspeed Podcast, episode 129, Crystal Healing. Well, hello there. How are you doing? Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining me. It really makes a difference. I so enjoyed meeting so many of you in our live podcast recently, and we'll do that again. But today we're going to talk about crystal healing. And why did I give it this particular title? Well, I wanted to bring together some ideas that were both about our physical self, our mental self, and at the end of this session, we will do a crystal healing meditation. Because everything that exists on this planet is really crystalline consciousness. Everything we see is actually consciousness that has become form through a crystallization process with the help of water and fire and earth. And so what I wanted to share is that we are in this state of both crystallizing ideas and also dissolving those crystals. And that was very important to me yesterday when I woke up and there were 3 inches of snow on the ground. My husband said, well, I'm going to play golf this afternoon. And I went, no, I don't think you are. But because of the sun and the wind, eventually, slowly, the snow became water, and the water ran, and the dry air that we have here evaporated that water, and all of a sudden we have a very dry ground again, and he was able to go and play golf. And I realized that this is this natural process. These crystals, this water was made into crystalline form. We called it snow, and then it dissolved into water, and then it went into the air as evaporation. And then it will form again into a crystalline form. And that's how our consciousness is. You could almost say it in the breath in and the breath out. Something is formed, we live it, and then it dissolves again. And that's the normal process. And that process is really the process of how our planet has been created. When I was in Iceland recently, and that was a wonderful trip with my husband and maybe some of you, the whole island there doesn't exist except for the ability for fire and water to act together. So you can move around this beautiful island. 1 minute you're with the heat and the hot springs and the volcanoes and knowing about earthquakes. And the next minute you're freezing because you're on a glacier and there are chunks of ice coming towards you, or you're in the snow. And on this tiny island that didn't exist until this activity within the volcanic state, the earthquakes happened, you see how fragile we are, how this natural balance between the fire and the water really create our life. I was watching a program on Hawaii, same thing, that the volcanoes erupt and the 2,000-degree lava slides down the hill and goes into the water, and then the water cools it and it becomes solid. So you're creating a new island. The Hawaiian Islands are constantly forming because of the activity. And at this moment we have at least 50 volcanoes that are erupting around the world. So we're in this heating up process. But at the same time, I was reading that as the glaciers, as the chunks of ice fall into the sea, they actually start to cause cooling of the water, which then affects our climate. So that not only are we heating up at one level, we're also going towards a mini ice age. So this process of heat and cooling going on constantly through often water and the use of air is our natural way of living. And so I also get this idea that as the glaciers melt, they are actually melting crystalline consciousness that was laid down 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, 18,000 years ago. And that as that consciousness enters into the oceans, that will eventually reach me. I may drink it, I may bathe in it. And so we are also imbibing of consciousness of many thousands of years ago. And maybe that's one of the reasons that we're seeing the ices melt, so that we may experience that consciousness. Now, some of you may say that's going a little extreme, But I can guarantee that we have been through cycles of ice ages and heating. That's the way our world has been made. So remembering is that when we interfere with that system, that movement from just pure consciousness into crystalline form, and then from crystalline form back into just pure consciousness, an etheric crystal, you could call it. When we interfere with that, we can become sick, or that something becomes stagnant. Now, I've spoken before about how our emotions are essential for this process. We have fire, anger. We have fire is also creative energy, which I see in the volcanoes. We have water, which dissolves things away. We have happiness, and we have sadness, and we have fear. And all of these are natural emotions. Of course, if we get stuck in any of them, then we start to see that manifest within the physical body. So what I have seen, it's really important to express your appropriate emotions at the appropriate time. When we hold on to these emotions, fear becomes chronic anxiety, or anger becomes bitterness, resentment, or tears become depression. So when we are naturally in the flow, we will have tears and move on. When we have a lot of energy, then we can let off steam, which is a very interesting thing we do. We have all these different ways of phrasing the natural process. So as a child, when I was young, we would be sent out into the playground, into the yard to go and play, the school ground, and we would be told, go and let off steam. And we'd run around and we'd play games, and not so much myself, but I might see the boys fighting and playing and tumbling and screaming. If you ever go into a playground, there's a lot of noise. And you know the children have been sent outside in their lunch break, and they're making a lot of noise. What are they doing? They're letting off steam. When they can let off steam, they can come back into their room and they can calm down and they can concentrate. But that's not happening, is it? And so when we're not allowing our children to get out there, we're seeing ADHD, anxiety, all this pent-up energy. And then during the lockdown, we're seeing problems with depression and suicide in our young people because they've been stuck in the house. They've been forced to be in front of a screen. And they can't go out because of lockdown. They have to wear their masks so they're not screaming and exchanging energy. And nor adults. So we have blocked this natural process. We want to sing, we want to join, we want to laugh. All of that is how we let off steam. And we've been told, don't make too much noise, don't laugh, keep quiet, don't sing too loud. You'll spit at people. So what's happening is this natural process between ice and water, or between fire and ice, I should say, is stopped. And that can also be part of what we see in what I've described as the grieving process. When we're going through the grieving process, it is about us being able to dissolve something that was crystallized, maybe a relationship with someone. And that crystallized form, that what we expected of that relationship to continue, we're having to dissolve so we can move on to a new relationship, for instance. But when we get stuck with either the too much fire, I'm so angry that this happened, or I blame myself, the shame, the blame, the guilt, we're actually not allowing that normal process to happen. So we get sick. Everything in our body is about this flow. Solid structure dissolving back into this more etheric crystalline form. We could call it air. And so it's not surprising that within this COVID crisis, we've seen problems with the lungs. We've seen problems with the bloodstream, clotting. We're seeing that somewhere along the line, this natural process of allowing things to dissolve and then evolve into solid structure has been distorted. And we've done this so many times with pharmaceutical drugs. Now, at this point, I do not want anybody to feel ashamed or blamed that maybe they've taken a drug or they've taken the vaccine. This is your choice. This is your natural choice. But many a time we didn't have someone explain the decision to us. That yes, this will help us to lower our cholesterol. But nobody explained that cholesterol is essential for cortisol. And what is cortisol? Cortisol is actually the way we deal with stress. So when we lower cholesterol, we actually lower cortisol, which means we can't deal with stress so much. So what happens? People get angrier. There's no doubt the people on lowering cholesterol drugs have issues around anger management. And then you may take an antidepressant. Very good, because it's kind of lifting you out of your depression, but it also stops you having any extremes. And the inability to have extremes means that everything gets stagnated. So you're only in one form all the time, happy, but you're not, because that flow of emotions between happy and sad and angry and confused, it's a natural process. So what we've been trying to do as humanity, rightly or wrongly, is actually take control of what is natural. And in some circumstances, I really admit, it's a good thing to do this. Sometimes when people are so depressed, they need help. When some people who are really sick need pain control. But we need to not see it as a long-term event. We need to see it as something that allows the body to come back into homeostasis again. And so now, when we're looking at this virus, we've developed drugs, and they truly are drugs, as you know, the vaccines. And again, what I say to you is, if you've taken the vaccine, please, you did what you believed was right. But at this moment, this is an experimental drug. It's not a vaccine, it's a drug. And what it's been developed for, whether it's the mRNA drugs or the other types of vaccines, they're all drugs. They're all trying to interfere with a system that would naturally find a way of creating natural immunity. Our natural immunity is so pure. It has so many different facets to it. The antibodies, the macrophages, the interferon, the natural killer T cells, and I could name many more but there's so many different parts of our immune system that work together, that isolate the problem, that create some sort of, starting to dissolve the problem, and then they cool the system down again afterwards. That's what happens if I develop a cut on my finger. I see the redness come into it. I see the isolation of the problem. I see pus form maybe. And then everything calms down and I see a beautiful white scar. Imagine how brilliant that body is to go through that whole process. Isolate, destroy, create, dissolve. It's that same idea that I'm talking about, fire and ice. And yet what we've done is we've created, or the pharmaceutical companies have created, a drug that is interfering with this system. Because of this interference, it's actually created something that should not have been happening at this time. If you go to Del Bigtree's High Wire, the last episode, he shows an interview that was done with someone who is actually a vaccine producer, Gert van den Bosch, who actually loves vaccines. He loves the production, but he said this was the very worst thing we could have done at this time. Because what's happened, he said, you should never have used this particular drug at a time of crisis. He said, you're going into war with one particular drug, or gun, I should say. And he said, the virus is actually feeling under attack. It's feeling pressurized. So it's mutating every 10 hours. He said, it literally, this is what it can do. So it's changing its shape every 10 hours. So there are thousands of mutations, not just one variant or two. Literally, the more you attack this virus, the angrier it gets, and the more under pressure it gets. And so its desire to survive is it will get into our cells and cause problems. and try and stop the attacker so that it can survive. So one of the features that he's saying is it's producing antibodies, yes, but these antibodies are coming much later. But these antibodies that is being produced about one variant are now acting like Trojan horses to help the virus get further into the cell and replicate, as well as damage the macrophages that usually calm everything down. This was the work of Sherry Tenpenny. So what's happening is we've got very angry viruses. We've got a system that is not allowing the natural multi-complex immune system to work. We're only focusing on antibodies and spike proteins. And what's happening is we're actually exacerbating the problem. This is called antibody-dependent enhancement. And we've gone out of balance. So how do we get back into balance? We need to recognize that our body knows what to do. And again, if you've taken the vaccine, for whatever reason, don't lose heart. Your body is not so set in stone that things can't be changed. But the body is your friend. It's my friend. And when we can give it the permission to find that balance again, it will do this thing. And how do we do that? It's not just maybe, but well, it's very important to take the right vitamins and minerals. We're going to use a crystal healing means of doing this. But more importantly, we need to balance our emotions. We need to allow things to flow. We need to move beyond holding on to things too tight or not expressing who we are. So where are we? Where are you in your life? Are you holding back for fear of not being good enough or not being enough? Is it time for you to crystallize some of your consciousness? Or are you holding onto your consciousness with such firm beliefs, i.e. your beliefs of your crystalline consciousness? Are you holding onto your beliefs like, no, I won't let go? Let go. Be like the islands of Hawaii. Be like the island of Iceland and many other islands that have allowed fire to come in and then ice to come in. It's the natural flow of life. What needs to be washed away? What needs to be formed? What needs to be strengthened? What needs to be released? And with that, I offer you this meditation. Enjoy. So, are you ready? Please to close your eyes. Use your breath as always. Short breath in, long out breaths. Calm yourself. Only doing this if you're in the right place to meditate. Bring yourself into your body. Take your awareness down to your feet. If your feet aren't on the ground, that's okay at this time. Please go 9 feet under your feet, 3 meters under your feet. See there the root chakra. The root chakra is how we are rooted into Mother Earth, how we know that we belong to something much greater than ourselves, how we know we are nurtured through our root chakra. Without needing to know the names of different crystals, we're just going to use colors. What color crystal do you need in your root chakra today to allow yourself to receive the nurturing, the security of Mother Earth? As you feel the presence of that crystal in your root chakra, feel as it recreates balance, strength, nurturing. Let's move up to the base chakra. Base chakra is a sense of security, abundance. It's where our inner fire lives for new creations, where we feel that we belong. We have a sense of knowing the I am. What color stone, what color crystal do you need? What crystal do you need in that base chakra to feel safe, secure, with a fire that allows you to be yourself? Let that crystal enter that base chakra, strengthening, supporting, dissolving old fears. Moving the awareness up to your sacral chakra, below your navel. It's a place where we feel secure in our relationships. We feel respected. We allow for transformation because we feel safe. We clear out old energy of painful relationships. What crystal do you need in your sacral chakra to bring about that transformation? To clear out the old. Encourage new relationships, healthy relationships. Feel as that crystal works on your sacral chakra. We move up to the solar plexus. Place of feeling, I am confident, I'm okay in being myself. I'm not sensitive to your criticism or your need for approval. I am myself. What crystal are you placing in your solar plexus today? Bringing you that strength, that I'm okay. Getting rid of the old shames, the old guilts, feelings of inadequacy, dissolving away the old energies. And moving up into our heart chakra. Deep connection to our soul, deep connection to our intuition, our knowingness. I am that I am. A love that goes very deep, both for ourselves and our deep connection to all that is. What crystal helps bring that strength to you? Dissolves away any feelings of separation, disconnection. And moving up into the throat chakra. What crystal brings you the ability to express yourself, to make changes in your life, to have courage, to crystallize your consciousness? Feel that crystal there. Feel it dissolve any doubt. Allow yourself to be heard. Move your awareness up into your third eye. Third eye, clear vision. Clearing away overthinking, anxiety. What crystal brings that clarity of thought, that clarity of vision? Feel the crystal there. Finally, the crown chakra, our connection to the spirit world, connection to our inspiration, our higher mind. What crystal allows that flow, that natural flow of energy from pure etheric consciousness into form. And let that be. And knowing that you can return to this meditation at any time. And you may wish to change the crystals, but know that at this moment, you have consciousness flowing through you in a liquid form, bringing you totally into balance. Sometimes creating form, sometimes creating evaporated crystallized energy. The natural process. With that in mind, slowly bring your awareness back to the room where you are, opening your eyes when you're ready. And in your own time, make some notes of your findings, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the HeartSpeak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Please check out all HeartSpeak episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. HeartSpeak is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Sticher Radio, and now playing on iHeart Radio. You can also watch the archive podcasts on YouTube. Connect with Christine on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, including her newest Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling. Do share with family, friends, colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of HeartSpeak.